Rumors have it that our roster is set, but what grades would you give each move individually? Let's talk some TSM. Yes, according to different roster rumor people, our TSM roster is set, which is good and bad. I'm very interested to see what you guys think. I'm going to be running through it and giving my grades. Once the rosters are actually set for sure, I'm going to dive a little bit deeper. But for today, I wanted to at least just give my grades because over the weekend, everything seemingly fell into place for TSM. So let's jump into it here. Question of the day. What grade do you people, give our rumored team? I'm going to be interested to see what you guys give them overall. And again, I'm going to do an overall grade on Wednesday's episode once everything is kind of done. You know, give you a little bit of extra before we head into the Thanksgiving season. All right, so now I will say, while I am starting with solo here, I am going to be going out of order. I'm going to be going with the known players first, and then heading into the potentially newer players. And do remember that some of these players are being completely signed, some of these players are being re-signed, some of them are just being kept on their current contract. Okay, so solo. There were very good options available, options that were much better than solo. Options that I think are going to instantly push him out of the top 5 when you have players like Impact, Someday, Tenacity, Fudge still in the league, right? And not that he was going to maybe push them out, but the hope was maybe they might leave or something of that nature, right? And that is not the case. I see him probably hanging around with Armut, being a very different player. He might even actually be better than Armut, but I'm going to give this still a B-, just because, again, he is stable, right? Like, he's not going to lose us games. He's not going to be a player that we have to worry about moving forward, and it'll be a lane that we can be happy about, and he's going to be, I think, a productive member of the team, and that is not a bad thing to have. I still would have preferred any of the younger options that are coming up. I believe that Tenacity might even be available next year with General Sniper making his way up. Either that or TSM need to be saving all their monies now to go get him. But I would have preferred Soul. I would have given Soul an A- probably. Because I still think there were better options out there, and I still think there are better options than solo, but if you're going for a budget roster, this guy is actually very good in terms of budget roster, and that's why I'm not going to give that a much lower grade. Chime. Even though you guys have heard me complain time and time again about age on this team, and I will say there's not going to be a single player under 24 or 23, I believe, on this team. The age range will be from 23 to 30, so probably one of the oldest teams in the LCS. Chime is still somebody who I think has a lot of potential and is at a position where you can play for the next 7 years. He's probably maybe the only player I could see being on this team past even this year, honestly. And because of that, I'm going to give this an A. I think them grabbing him last year was pretty fortunate, to say the least. And I just think he's going to be much better than people think. I really do believe he could push his way right around that top 3 level. I don't think he will be top 3, but I think he's going to be better than like some of these teams that are being put together. Like, I think he'll be maybe around Busio's level, to be honest with you. I think Busio's going to be amazing, but I do think that Chime can be that. And considering, like, Busio's potential is higher, but I do think that Chime's floor is higher because he knows more about himself as well as how to mold himself into the team. And going into his second year, he's going to be a leader on this team. So I'm honestly very excited about our bot lane compared to the rest of our team. To be honest with you. Moving on, Maple. Listen, mid lane is tough in the LCS right now. There are not a lot of options, even on the outside. Mid lane in general, honestly, it's a pretty premier position that doesn't have a lot of great players available in it. And the more and more I thought about Maple, and the more and more I thought about the moves with him, I'm actually I'm actually getting excited even right now talking about him, because I came into this being like, oh, maybe he's like a B. I'm actually going to give this an A minus as well, similar to Chime. There's not a lot of better options out there, at least in terms of developed enough players to actually compete in the LCS. And I think a second full year, at least hopefully a split, maybe 2 or 3, depending on what the LCS does, of Maple is going to be a good thing for us. He's a little bit on the older side, whatever. Jensen has shown that you can do that. Bjergsen has as well. Again, my age argument is not being as I don't know. It's not as relevant now as it was, and I'm working my way out of it a little bit with this roster, probably for the copium as to what we did this offseason. But I do believe that he is going to be, I think, another very stable force, and I think we're going to try to let him carry a little bit more, and I'm pretty excited about that, if I'm being honest with you. I like this move, and I don't think there was a better one. I would prefer to have Maple over Jensen as well. I shouldn't say that. VTO and Bjergsen are the only things that would have gotten like A+, nailed it for me on this roster, if I'm being honest. So I'm okay with Maple. I really am. I've talked myself into it more the more I've looked around the LCS. Now here's one I don't know about yet with Boogie. He is just such an unknown. And again, being in his mid-20s, never having a chance before in a major region, gives me a lot of pause. And he has been solid, if not unspectacular, in many other leagues. Now, he's also playing with players who are a lot worse. And while you would want him to hopefully be able to carry and be the main piece of that to attract people, I think TSM are taking a really big risk on a player that is super unknown, and maybe they're doing it just for comfort with Maple, because I think they did play together when he was with Flash Wolves, and maybe Glenn and Maple came together and said, hey, let's just go get Boogie, because he's like literally just chilling in the country below us, basically, or not like physically below them. I don't love this one. I think you could have signed some other veterans, like even Svenskeren. To me, those rumors would have been much better than this, especially considering you're wasting an import slot, your second one, on this. I'm giving this one a D+. The only reason it's not an F is because if he can show his solo queue side, right, and be able to be a major engage, never carry, right, like always on tanks, engages, supportive type junglers that allows for Maple, solo, and the AD carry that we're about to talk to do their thing, I think that's fine. I think that's good enough, and I won't be too mad. And I'm going to really hope that whatever our academy squad ends up being has a lot of very young talent that is going to be readily available to replace Boogie at some point. I really don't see him staying on this team past a year. The last one here is Neo. And I honestly don't hate this move at all. I have been kind of a Neo stan for the last few years, and I do think that like Afromu just makes people better, okay? Like I really can't emphasize that enough. And he made Neo a top 3 AD carry at the time. They gave him the pieces he needed to carry, and You put him with a worse support. I'm sorry, I like Bio, but he isn't the same kind of support that Afromu is. Bio, I think, is better for the rest of the map than he necessarily is for his AD carry, especially nowadays. And Neo struggled, right? He wasn't bad still, but he struggled. I think with Chime, Neo is actually going to be pretty solid. There are a lot of younger AD carries, and I think ones with higher potential than him that I would have preferred. So I'm going to give this move like a B-ish. Yeah, I think a B is fine. But I really do think Neo is pretty underrated. And I only said Johnson because of the familiarity, but I was between Johnson and Neo. And I think I said that in a different podcast episode. I thought those two were the most likely that they could sign that were like a veteran, probably relatively cheap. And he does give me a little hope that this might not be a terrible team, to be honest with you, because I do think that you can carry through Neo and Maple and win a lot of games, especially against some pretty terrible rosters that are going to be in the LCS, or at least below average rosters. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think. Videos below as always, but I don't hate this team. I want to be clear. I'm not exactly excited for them, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Once everything is more set in stone here in the next 48 hours or so, I will have even more time to kind of think on it, pause, do some more research. But this is my initial reaction. Let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, I'll catch you all on the next one.